Thanks, Helen.
Okay, I guess I'll get started. I'm Jerry Condon. I'm a Vietnam era veteran and war resister. I'm on the board of directors of Veterans for Peace, and I'm a co-coordinator of this nuclear abolition working group. And Helen?
I'm Helen Jacquard. I'm the project manager for the Golden Rule sailboat.
Jim?
Well, and I'm Jim Woolgamuth. I'm here in Nashville, Vietnam veteran, and a Veterans for Peace Radio Hour with Harvey Bennett. And so, that's what we do. Harvey?
Hi. As Jim said, I'm co-host with I'm the Yang and the Yin Yang radio show.
That means he's the intelligent one.
Well, you guys just got an award at the Veterans for Peace.
Yeah, that was really unexpected, and very, very happy about that. We are in our 8th year of a weekly hour show, so sometimes it blows my mind that we've
survived.
A lot of great interviews.
But I'm in Charleston now, even though I still have my membership with the Hector Black chapter in Nashville, because they don't have a chapter here, and I haven't gotten my act together to make one here, so not yet anyway.
Great. Anthony Donovan.
Hi, it's an honor. Thank you. I'm chapter associate member of Chapter 34 here in New York City, and was really proud to involve myself with the Golden Rules journey, and especially here in New York City, and done a couple of documentaries on nuclear weapons and the movement, and it's been a lifelong passion. So it's an honor to be on this with this group and listen in.
Great.
Thank you.
It's a big cat.
Yeah, who's in your lap there?
This is Muggsy. She's 17 years old.
Wow.
Oh, God bless her.
Yeah.
Demasio, I know your name is not Sally.
Yeah.
Macio. I'm from Socorro, New Mexico. Back in 1985, when I came home from my job as a professional golfer to New Mexico, I found out they were testing depleted uranium less than 2 miles from my house, and that was 37 years ago. And I never went back to golf, and here I am.
Mm.
Great. And I got distracted. Somebody had asked me if I'm trying to get into the Zoom call. I guess there's another meeting I'm supposed to be in, but I'm going to stick with this one. Peter Barris?
Hi, Peter Barris. Let's see. My first contact was in 1958 when I met Albert Bigelow, the original skipper of the Golden Rule. And I've had a checkered career since then. I'm now writing a book called Surviving Extinction at the Dawn of the Attention Age. And I happened across Damasio in the middle of a Golden Rule meeting or something, and suddenly I'm up to my ass in alligators. I guess I must like it.
Yeah, so you two are working on the depleted uranium stuff together, and that's great.
Well, I probably, because I used to take the minutes for a dozen school boards here in Vermont for about 10 years. It's hard to stop. Your fingers twitch in that direction.
Great. Well, we need minute takers.
Where in Vermont are you, Peter?
About 2 miles from the United States, between Brattleboro and Bennington.
I lived in Bennington for 14 years.
They don't have any electricity right now.
Wow.
Speaking of note takers, Greg usually takes our notes. He does a good job of it, but he's not here today. Anybody want to take a few sketchy notes about as we go on through the meeting today?
Well, I'm just doing it by habit. I'll send you mine.
Thank you very much. Hey, Roy, you want to say a few words?
Sure. I'm Secretary of Veterans for Peace in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I'm just trying to become more involved and more knowledgeable about the organization, and glad to see that it was a pretty productive convention. And so I'm trying to renew my interest and learn what I can.
Great.
Appreciate all the work you guys do and have done.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that convention energized a lot of us. It's very motivating. So, Hollis, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I'm the secretary of Spokane, Chapter 35 here in Spokane. And yeah, we're kind of going through kind of a doldrum time again, but we persist. My big concern is the deployment of depleted uranium weapons by the UK and the United States to Ukraine. I think it's nutso. And also, I heard that the DOE is considering an application from some company or some project to build the first small nuclear reactor test site. And this company or this project is all PR, saying, "Oh, we almost have the application approved, and if we do, oh, it's going to be great." And the Department of Energy is nuts. I mean, they talk out of both sides of their face. They want to talk about solar and wind, and then they'll turn right around and say, "Oh, yeah, we're going to have big nuclear projects." So they deserve a little more scrutiny.
Right.
Where do they want to put it?
It's at the Idaho National Laboratory in Idaho Falls.
Well, Spokane, was that our last in-person national convention, I think?
Yes, it was.
2019,
Yeah.
Doubletree Hotel. Yeah.
It was so good that nobody wants to do it live anymore. Anyway, Ken?
Yeah, Ken Mayers, Santa Fe, New Mexico. From where I live at night, I can see the lights of Los Alamos. So naturally, we have kind of a focus on nuclear issues here in Santa Fe. Have a weekly protest that's been going on since the first Friday of August in 2002. So we're still at it, dwindling numbers, but still at it. And I'm on the national board. I was on the board from 2004 to 2009, national treasurer 2005 to 2009, and was elected to the board again, finishing up a 3-year term now, and am a candidate once again against my better judgment.
Oh, you're running for re-election. Awesome. Got my vote. Hey, Dan, what do you have to say?
Okay, Daniel Shea. I'm the president of Veterans for Peace, PDX Chapter 72 here in Portland, Oregon. I've just sent Damasio a couple of things to introduce him to a documentary filmmaker and also to a friend of mine who's a publisher, because we talked about Damasio's possible new book coming out. So I wanted to get him an interview. So I just sent those emails today. So I hope Damasio got those and made those introductions. I'm also right now really busy. I'm preparing for tomorrow's Peace and Justice, Vancouver Peace and Justice Fair. So we'll have a booth there. I'll be setting things up there. And there's a lot of peace activists there. So we can talk, I can put some stuff together to talk about our DU group. The other is September 21st is going to be the UN International Peace Day. And I'm working with a young group of people with Resist U.S. Wars and a number of other groups to come together in a coalition to do some actions on that day. So trying to put it all together. It's a lot of work, but I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Dan. Well, Alice Slater, good to see you.
Sorry to be late.
And yeah, Helen Jacquard's in the next room. She'll be joining us again shortly. So you're not the only woman here. In fact, Jean Darling has just joined us too. So we've just gone around and done introductions and said a few words about what's on our mind. So you're up, Alice.
Okay, I'm Alice Slater. I'm in Manhattan, which is the Lenape word for place of many hills, Manhattan in New York. And I'm late because I was talking to Zia Meehan, a physicist at Princeton, because I have, after seeing Oppenheimer, which everybody has seen, I'm sure, I think we had the Manhattan Project to build the bomb. We need the Bronx Project to clean it up because we just stopped on New York State from dumping tritiated water from the nuclear reactor into the Hudson River. And Japan is dumping in Fukushima. So I was talking to Zio, who's a Princeton physicist. He likes this idea, and this is what I'm trying to do in my old age, in my last gasp. We need a whole global group to think about the waste because we're doing it in New York. Somebody else is doing it in New Jersey. Somebody else in Hanford. It's a mess everywhere, all over the world, and we should have one scientific, thinking about what's the best way to do this. That's what's on my mind.
So Jean and Greg and Marcy, we're all going around introducing ourselves and sharing a little bit of what's on our minds. So Jean, go ahead, please.
Hi, Jean Darling. I'm retired Unitarian Universalist minister. Here near Santa Fe, not in it. Well, being here, we're just very aware of Los Alamos Labs and that they're planning to start manufacturing plutonium pits again. It's pretty awful. So that's sort of what's on my mind.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Greg.
Yeah, we've got 2 meetings going. I sent out a link that Jean and Marcy and myself and Roberto were on. We were wondering where the heck everybody else was. So now I'm worried because there's a bunch of guys from the depleted uranium group, and they probably are trying to use the wrong link too.
No, they're here. Well, at least a couple of them. Damasio's here and Peter's here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was wondering, so there's a little bit of confusion there. Who's Roberto?
Roberto Roybal, he's a longtime organizer in Albuquerque.
Okay. Well, you might want to reach out to him and get him on this other Zoom.
Wait a second. Here he comes.
Okay, great.
Right.
Terrific.
Okay, good.
And Roberto, you made it, man.
Yeah, we're in the other meeting. We had the wrong ID number or something.
Yeah, that's all we heard. We're just all introducing ourselves and saying a couple of words about what's on our mind. Would you like to introduce yourself, Roberto?
Sure. My name is Roberto Roybal. I'm here in Santa Fe. I've been doing these weekly pickets on Alameda and Guadalupe. Been doing it since March or so. And I've been in Santa now for a couple of years. I was in Albuquerque for 50 years, but I was born and raised here in Santa Fe and want to get some nuclear disarmament going. World peace.
Great. Thank you so much. And Marcy, you're up.
Hi, I also hang out on the corner in Santa Fe with these characters, and I was involved with a couple of different anti-nuke organizations for 12 years with Greg Mello's organization. That was up until a few years ago, and it was just impossible to deal with him personally. So I had to look around to see who else was advocating against nukes that I can hang out with. And I also head up a Raging Grannies group. So we come and sing our anti-nuke songs and anti-war songs at any event you might have.
Great.
And they're very good too.
The Golden Rule has been blessed with visits by several Raging Granny groups where lately, a lot of different places we've been actually. That's always a big pleasure.
Yeah.
They were with us. Actually, the Raging Granny groups from Milwaukee and Madison got together and performed at our recent events in Milwaukee. So that was a lot of fun. But it looks to me like we're having kind of a Santa Fe takeover here today. But that's great. We appreciate that you're all here. So I think we've all introduced ourselves now, and that was worthwhile getting to know each other a little bit better. So Jim, you want to take us through the proposed agenda again and see if anybody has anything that they want to add to it?
Sure. We've got the decision, and this might be an easy one since we've discussed it quite a bit. As far as the depleted uranium subcommittee, Mike Ferner called me. He's the new interim executive director, and says, why doesn't the depleted uranium subgroup just take over the working group that's already been established to look at depleted uranium, cluster bombs, and mines? And he said they would not have to change what they're actually doing, so they could stay focused on depleted uranium if they wanted to be automatically elevated into a working group status. And you could, as Jerry mentioned before, you could still maintain the connection with us in the No Nukes group. So that's one item. Then September 17th is a day with regard to the climate actions, and there's going to be nationwide actions there. And then the 2 weeks of actions at the end of the month, that we have to figure out what we want to do with that. And then finally, I guess we have to think about a guest speaker for 2 weeks from now, if we can pull one together. And beyond that, that's all I got from looking at emails from people's thoughts.
Well, the depleted uranium group has another topic they want to discuss, I think, and that's to let us know what their ongoing work is, and also, I think, to talk about getting a VFP statement against depleted uranium weapons going to Ukraine. Is that right, Tomasio and Peter?
That's correct. We have been working on that, and we've had several edits already, and I imagine we'll have a couple more before it's done. And of course, we won't send it out till we're officially a working group, I would think. And what I would wonder what's the process to make that happen, or to go about? Is some bureaucratic stuff or what?
Not really. I think Mike Ferner, since Mike reached out to me, I can reach out to him through an email with a courtesy copy to you, Damasio, and Peter, and whoever else, and saying that you've decided that you'd rather be a working group than a subcommittee, and that should just do it, as long as somebody gets on the website and changes contact information from the current people who did not respond to Mike Ferner when he reached out to them, and just change you guys, put your names in. Then you could take a look at the mission, and you just adjust it at your own convenience. But that would, my understanding from talking to Mike, that would be it.
Ken Maynard said something to just add to that.
Yeah, but in the meantime, before you work through that, if you really want to get VFP to make a statement on the shipment of DU weapons to Ukraine, go ahead and draft the statement, send it to Mike. He has authority to, claim that as the VFP statement.
That should happen in the next 3 days. This thing is moving awfully fast. Okay.
So,
well, I would ask a question here. First of all, what I got from Mike Ferner's email was that people that are on the so-called working group on this issue are not being active. So what we are doing the work Therefore, we should just be the working group. That's what I got from his email. I don't see any problem of just becoming the working group that he was talking about. Is that called the No Nukes working group, or what is the title of it? That would be a question.
I'll show you. Let's see.
Somebody asking me?
Yeah, he's got, Jim's going to show us the screen again.
Okay.
It's the working group. It's a long established working group that has been inactive for a while. It's a working group on depleted uranium, cluster bombs, and mines.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes, I see it.
So
Okay, yeah.
we should probably contact the previous coordinators, Mike Felker and Chuck Rossi, see if they want to be involved. But basically, Mike Ferner's just suggesting that instead of forming a subcommittee of the No Nukes group for depleted uranium, they could just inhabit this already existing working group without hardly any bureaucracy at all, Damasio.
That's
Okay.
right.
Great. I might add that our subcommittee has been working on the mission statement and statement of purpose as well, and we do have drafts, so we're pretty close to taking care of a lot of that paperwork already. It's just a matter of finishing it up, and
Yeah.
we're having a meeting on Monday, and we'll probably be discussing those kinds of things.
Yeah, well, take a look at this mission statement and see if it suits you or if you want to add to it or replace it.
Okay.
But I think that could all go fairly smoothly. But let me ask you another question. Are you working on a draft statement for VFP opposing the shipment of depleted uranium weapons to Ukraine?
Yes, and we've gone through something like 4 edits on it already, major ones. It all started with John Wilkes' letter going to the legislature, and then it gradually took on a different form when the legislature didn't respond the way we thought it should have. So we've taken that same letter and we're trying to adapt it. We haven't totally done it yet. Adapt it to a position paper on DU going to Ukraine, being sent by the U.S. And I just did a edit on it just recently, and Peter has also had his shot at it, and I'm expecting and I'm hoping that Greg will take the last shot at it, or close to the last shot at editing it, and we'll get this thing off within a few days. Is my hope.
Great.
And Greg,
I
by
would
the way,
suggest
Greg,
I would suggest that there be
I sent you a email about that interview that it's been asked of us. I've conceded to do it after you sent me that email, but there is one thing. I would like for you to accompany me on that. These people are very likely to start asking some questions about Veterans for Peace that I may not be able to answer with my short experience in Veterans for Peace. And I think it'll be an important interview. This will go back to Russia, I'm assuming. And so, we can between, I think, you and I think we can do a great job. And they're asking about cleanup, like sites and what it takes and so forth. Well, I haven't got all that in my head, but I have it in paper and I know where it's at. So I can study up on this thing, but I wouldn't want to do this, like in the next couple of days. I'd want to wait 3 or 4 days before we have that interview. And Greg, I want to know if you'd be interested in being my sidekick on this.
Yeah, I can look at that. Yeah.
And
we can
I'm
talk about that.
About the actual interview as well.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Who's doing the interview?
It's Sputnik.
Oh,
Sputnik, probably Sputnik TV. Yeah. It's a Russian TV network.
Okay, well, if that information, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alice.
I'm going to post my article that came out of Ramsey Clark's book, Metal of Dishonor. Do you know about it? He wrote it in '96 after we used depleted uranium in Iraq. And it had all the studies about the illness. And I wrote a chapter, which I've just issued. It was on Tarek's newsletter, Peace and Planet News, with an introduction. So I'll send it to you guys. I don't know what email you're getting. Getting the Veterans of Peace email list?
Just do it to this
Because it
email.
talks about depleted uranium and nuclear waste and what's involved, you know. And
Yeah, send it to the No Nukes listserv. I think pretty much everybody here is on that right now.
Okay.
I'm familiar with his work. In fact, he asked me to go to Iraq with him. He wanted to take radiation measurements on the Highway of Death, and he knew that I had done this a few years before in Iraq, and I did, and we had a very good trip there, and it was very successful, and there was something like 60 to 70 people on that trip, but just a few of us went to the Highway of Death to do the radiation studies.
But the book is still out. You can get
surveys.
it on Amazon, and it's got the whole story about what depleted uranium did not only to Iraqis but to our own guys, and their children had birth defects, like from the dust of it. I mean, it's like awful.
I got that book right after it came out immediately, and I read it many times, and it's on my bookshelf over here along with many others.
Yeah, so Alice has got a chapter in there. You're
From
going to
the
share that
Manhattan
with us?
Project to the Bronx Project. And that's what I'm starting now. I want to get a global group to figure out what to do with this nuclear waste. Everybody's doing it in their own community, and they're going nuts like we're doing with Indian Point, and Fukushima's dumping it in the Hudson, and Hanford's, you know, pollution, and to try to make a real thoughtful look at what we do with it. How do we keep ourselves safe from it, you know?
Alice, what do you have against Brooklyn?
I grew up in the Bronx. Brooklyn's too classy compared to, I mean, Manhattan and Brooklyn is like the new Manhattan. You know, my granddaughter moved there, like, because there's no place to live in Manhattan anymore. But the Bronx is still the Bronx.
Yeah.
What's the name of the book again?
Metal, METAL, of Dishonor. And it's got different
So there's
about the use of depleted uranium in Iraq. It was because of the Iraq War, and they also used it earlier in Kosovo. And they bombed that.
There's also, Alice, there's a group up in Plymouth, Massachusetts that's fighting a similar fight that the Indian Point fight, trying to keep the radiated water from being dumped into Cape Cod Bay.
We talked to them in our network.
Oh, good.
But we have like a whole decommissioning network across America. It's going on in like 40 communities where there are nuclear reactors. It's always a problem for everybody. So, and it's a global problem. So that's why I'm thinking if we elevate it, you know.
Okay, I just want to finish up on the depleted uranium part before we can move on to some other things. And I wanted to say that if Veterans for Peace is going to put out a statement, which they definitely should have already done, actually, condemning the shipment of depleted uranium weapons to Ukraine, then I think it needs to be, in my opinion, should be, I don't know how long the position paper you're working on is going to be, but there should be a like a one-page press release kind of thing. That there might be a separate document, or it might be the same document. I'd be willing to help you with that, Damasio, if you like.
Okay.
Because
well,
if the statement is longer, we could link to the statement, and but have a shorter press release with a few quotable quotes in it.
Okay. And Greg will be very involved in this, and so will Peter. So between the four of us, I think we should be able to wrap this thing up and get it out.
Okay. All right. Can we move on from DU for now?
Busted bombs, anyone?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we should link those things actually. But at any rate, so the rest of the agenda, as been described so far, is about actions that are coming up. And how do we mobilize VFP chapters in our own working group to be involved in those upcoming actions? But I wanted to ask if there are other concerns that people wanted to put on the agenda before we move on? Okay.
There's one thing, a question I wanted to ask Dan.
Yeah.
Dan, are you on that group that's going to be on the Zoom call with ICBUW?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I have been. I mean, I would be willing to if I had time. But, yeah.
Okay. All right. If I think one of the people is dropping out of the three people that we were going to interview that were members of Veterans for Peace, other than myself, and one of them said that they didn't think I could make it. So maybe I'll get back to you. Okay.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
I think I sent you my phone number. I don't think I have your phone number though. Maybe we should get
My phone number is 505-814-8727.
27. Okay, I'll just repeat it. 505-814-8727.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Oh yeah, and there is actually one more thing that I'd like to tack on to the end of the agenda, and that's I put it included it in one of the outreach emails for this meeting, and that's the letter. There's an anti-nuclear letter being distributed with the first signature being Daniel Ellsberg to Secretary of State Blinken, calling for a ceasefire negotiations in Ukraine rather than risk nuclear war. So that's something I want to make people aware of. But let's move through those actions that are coming up. We can do it by date, I guess. Who wants to start with the climate action on the 17th to talk to us about what's happening then?
Well, I've just got a little bit of information because I've been invited, and I know Veterans for Peace, the Hector Black chapter, is going to be participating here in Nashville. I guess it is a nationwide global fight to end fossil fuels. And it's on the 17th. We're doing something. We're going to have a march here in Nashville from 2 to 3:30. And since it's a national event, I would suspect that all you have to do is look to see what's going on in your local area, or maybe I can try and find something about a national sign in, and I can share it with everybody. But that's coming up on the 17th, and I'm taking advantage of that by trying to get as many flyers with regard to militarism and the climate to just pass out when they do the march. It's only 2:32 to 3:30 here, but I suspect in New York and wherever else there's going to be a much bigger thing. So Alice, do you know of anything on?
Well, Code Pink is organizing with a bunch of other groups.
Okay.
They're going to have a huge pink elephant and say the pink elephant in the march is the military, that they're not, the fossil fuel people don't want to put it in their original statement. So we're going to have a big blow up of a pink elephant in the room, which is the military. And we're going to have a military contingent, and we're all gathering, and we'll march as a group. We have a gathering spot. I won't be marching because I'm over the hill. But anyway, they'll have that.
Sorry, who
So
spoke
that's
before?
good. And there's another group, nuclear free.
Yeah.
They're separate. The nuclear power people. They're not talking about military yet. They're just talking about nuclear power is not green, because
Okay.
there's a whole
Okay.
thing that's making.
Ken,
I've got Ken Mayers and then Anthony Donovan.
Yeah,
Sorry, who spoke before Alice? I'm trying to keep
I'll
track.
yield to Anthony since he's here in New York, but then I'll
Who
follow.
was that? That was Jim Wolgamuth. This
Okay,
spoke
thanks.
before Alice.
No, but Anthony's in New York.
Thank you. By the way, Greg, Peter Barris is taking notes for us. You might be taking them too. I just thought you should know that.
Thank you.
and I'm recording.
Okay, great. Ken?
Well, I'm yielding to Anthony, and then I'll
okay.
follow Anthony.
Just to follow up with New York City, Yes, Veterans for Peace are getting together. Tarak has got a special issue paper that we're going to be handing out to everybody. He's making up especially for this climate march on the 17th. And he's also arranged for a night the night before at the People's Forum to have several groups come together regarding the march. And we have flyer that we made up for this march. So that's what we're doing here in New York City. We're joining with several other groups. But yeah, thanks.
Great. Should be a good day. Ken?
Yeah, well, of course, I was gonna boost the Peace and Planet News, which is available to all chapters to order. It's a special issue that's put together that's focused on militarism and the climate crisis. A bunch of terrific articles in it. It's dedicated to it's dedicated to the Daniel, and has a good tribute in there as well. So, like everybody, to order your copies of Peace and Planet News. We're going to be getting 100 of them here in Santa Fe. And the Code Pink, I believe, has a sign-up place on their website for those interested in joining the anti-militarism contingent. It's going to be a big march, and the assembly points are on different streets in Manhattan. So there's a specific point at which the anti-militarism contingent as a unit will join the march. And so other
Great.
and it may be that other locations can sign up on the Code Pink.
I think they do. They have places all over the country where there's going to be a militarism part of the climate march, anti-militarism.
Ken, how do people order a bundle of the Peace and Planet News? Which is the easiest way for them to do that? Go to the website?
Yeah, go to the website, peaceandplanetnews.org. And there are lots of points where they'll tell you to sign up to subscribe or to order a bundle.
Okay. Jean Darling, thank you for being patient.
Well, thanks. I just wanted to mention I'd gotten an email from Yucca, which is a local Santa Fe youth for climate action group. There's going to be a march in Albuquerque on the 14th. And they're not the only people doing it, apparently. I've heard other things about it, but I'm not sure who else. But they're marching to a hotel where the Advanced Energy Technologies Summit is taking place, where, they're going to be touting all kinds of technologies we'd really rather not have. False solutions, hydrogen, nuclear, net zero, carbon capture and storage, and so on. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah. We'll get a bunch of Peace and Planet News copies down there to distribute.
Yeah. Great.
Greg Corning, you're up.
Yeah, I'm glad Jean mentioned that, because I was just looking at this march to end fossil fuels, and I don't see anywhere on a couple of websites. I don't see anywhere for people to look up what's happening in my area. Everybody's referring to the one in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you, Greg?
Well, I'm in Santa Fe, but I can easily get to Albuquerque. It's just that I don't see any reference to anybody else where, usually there's something that says, find an action in your area. There's nothing like that I can find.
I guess you got to start one.
Or I don't know. I have to check if World Beyond War did it. We might have put up. I'll check. I'll look and see. And I can also talk to Code Pink and tell them to invite other places to post with them if you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay, moving through some of these other dates. Of course, the next closest date to September 17th is September 21st, which happens to be the UN International Day for Peace. And I know some people are usually doing something on that day. I'm sure that there will be some activities on that. Pardon?
There's stuff in New York, I know.
Yeah. and then September
And I
20.
did.
Go ahead,
On
Dan.
September 21, I already said that we're doing something here in Portland. I think it's going to be near Pioneer Square, Courthouse Square. There's going to be a march. I'm working with some young people putting it together. But also, I had, David Swanson has put out a call on that also. And I ordered 20 blue scarves from him, which represent what Afghan youth groups, peace groups, are wearing on that day, which represents we're all under one blue sky. So I have 40 of those to pass out on that day, and hopefully I'll order some Peace and Planet News, and we can get that out there also.
Yay.
Great. And then the next date on that calendar, well, September 26th, is the UN International Day for Nuclear Disarmament, or is that what they call it exactly? But at any rate, Diffuse Nuclear War, which is headed up by Norman Solomon and Roots Action folks, and is a new coalition that Veterans for Peace is part of. They've called for a week of action, September 24th to 30th. And if you go to diffusenuclearwar.org, they do have a list of actions taking place in various cities that week that are specifically for abolition of nuclear weapons. But they're also tying it to the war in Ukraine, which is, I think, really a good thing. They're making the point that the war in Ukraine presents a great risk to the world right now, because if it continues to escalate, it could actually become a nuclear war. So they're making that connection. And then the following week, so that's diffusenuclearwar.org. And the following week, September 30th to October 8th, that's a long week, is the Global Days of Action for Peace in Ukraine. This has been called for by activists in over 30 countries. And here in the U.S., a number of groups are participating, a number of coalitions are involved. It's been initiated by the Peace in Ukraine Coalition, and you can find out another list of actions for that week at peaceinukraine.org. And by the way, UNAC, the United National Anti-War Coalition, is also going to be mobilizing that week for peace in Ukraine. I'm pretty sure that Answer is doing the same. So actually, there's pretty broad unity among a number of anti-war groupings and coalitions for that week. And it's a very important week, and it's local actions. There is going to be on October 3rd, there's going to be a webinar out of Washington, D.C. or New York, I'm not sure which, with Cornel West and Medea Benjamin and a couple other, Eugene Perrier and Lee Camp. Interesting combination of folks. So that's going to be I think it's in Washington, D.C. at a church there. There's a couple hundred seats in that church. But it's also going to be webcast so that everybody can tune in. But there'll be a lot of local actions around the country that week. And that's where Veterans for Peace can really make a difference, because we happen to have chapters just about everywhere. So we're really, I know National Veterans for Peace is encouraging VFP chapters to participate in that week. I think it makes a lot of sense for VFP chapters to be involved in all of these activities that we're talking about right now. And they're all going to take place within about a 2.5 to 3 week period. And it's going to be a concentrated time of activity, and all of these things overlap. The climate crisis, militarism, nuclear war, and the war in Ukraine. So it's a time for us to be busy. So really the question is, how do we make the most of this moment? How can this working group and how can Veterans for Peace make sure that as many of our members and chapters as possible are involved in these activities. Any ideas?
Yeah, I just want to comment that on the Peace in Ukraine Coalition homepage, near the top, they have both sign up here to organize an event or another link, find Global Days of Action events here. So one of the things we can do, chapters all over can do, is to see if there's already an action event planned that they could join. And if there isn't, then they could organize an event and sign up there, and other organizations would be able to find it.
Great. Anybody else have any thoughts about those mobilizations? Anthony?
Just that we just with our convention have two great keynote speakers, which are now available. And they both Claire Daly got back yesterday saying she's going to post that pairing of Jeffrey and herself up on her social media. And Jeffrey Sachs's office said they're going to post, so we can, hopefully our chapters can be aware that that's a great tool when we're talking about Ukraine to support us, and to also pull from their websites will, I think, help expand our chapter's resources, connecting with those two, Europe and so, yeah, just that idea.
Right.
Yeah, I think sharing those speeches, which were very, very powerful, back-to-back speeches at the convention, they're about 25 minutes each, I think. And it goes pretty fast because those were really powerful, emotional, and informative speeches. So that's another thing we can do, is to share a lot of stuff on social media. And as a matter of fact, you know, if you're a small chapter or not able to do a whole lot at this point in time, or if you're Alice Slater and you're locked in your apartment, you can hold up a banner with a strong message on it and post that on Facebook and other social media, and it makes a difference, especially if a whole lot of people do it. So that's the simplest thing we can do, but it's better if you were able to join in local coalitions and really make a good local action and start maybe organizing new coalitions that could come out of this. That's what we're finding with the Golden Rule as we sail around. A lot of people have come together who haven't worked together before or haven't worked together in a while, and they've kind of new informal coalitions have come together with the potential of continuing to work together. So this is one of those times where, by reaching out to other organizations and people in our community, to let's do a vigil together for defuse nuclear war and peace in Ukraine, it could end up strengthening the local organizing in the future just by starting to build these networks.
Our new local president here in the Hector Black chapter in Nashville has been on top of this, and she started a monthly thing. And so our next monthly meeting, our next monthly vigil, is going to be right in the middle of those 2 weeks, Jerry. And so we're going to be able to address both on subsequent Saturdays, I'm hoping, and at least one Saturday. And of course, we are linked up with the local Peace and Justice Center here, and the Party for Socialism and Liberation. So we'll have three folks, the three organizations represented as we try to pass the word around Nashville.
I'd also like to say that here in Portland, you know, we are building a coalition of people. I've been working with some young people with Resist U.S. Wars, but also within that there is a Philippine group, the Bayan Group, which is an international revolutionary group against militarism. And then there is, and a number of them are actually faculty at Portland State University. There's also a Palestinian group called Super at Portland State University, which is also very active in resisting, well, actually putting a campaign together against Boeing. as a war manufacturer. So that is a part of something that we're dealing with. And of course, Physicians for Social Responsibility is also very strong on issues of nuclear power and nuclear weapons. So bringing all these people together is one thing that is starting to happen, and seeing these young people, there's also a sort of a guerrilla street group called Clown Block, which I was just at a meeting last Sunday that are putting together stuff for a number of things. A fundraiser for Education Without Borders, and some work for the September 21st International Peace Day. So they are working on putting some projects together and even doing some stage sort of production stuff with music and concerts. And I think of what was the San Francisco Mime Troupe, you know. So they're doing some great work, and I think, you know, they're reaching out to a lot of other people that I have no connections with. So all these combinations are coming together, which I think is indicative of a change that's happening in this country, and I think that's a positive change. And all I can do is just try to get more and more veterans to be involved in that, and our associate members to be involved in it.
Also, can I say something? I have to leave now because I've got a previous commitment to go to. But if there's anything I can do, Greg knows how to get a hold of me. And if you're passing out brochures, if you want me to pass out brochures, September 17th, Bonnie Raitt is performing here in Santa.
Wow.
We'll be passing out leaflets for the Stop Forever Nuclear War. And so if you want me to pass out brochures, I can do that. Just get them to me somehow or other.
That's great. Bonnie Raitt. Fantastic.
Let me know if there's anything else I can do. And so we'll see y'all later, folks. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Doing concerts would be a good idea.
Likewise. Take care. Thanks.
Roberto, wait 1 second. Ken wants to say something to you.
Before you go, I'll get you a bunch of copies of Peace and Planet News to hand out at Bonnie Raitt as well.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Great.
Wow.
I'll be in touch with you then, Ken. Thank you. Bye all.
Bye. Bye, Al. Bye.
I'll keep in touch with those of you that I've talked to today about these assignments that we have.
Yeah.
Okay. Dan, I got a couple hands up. Are you finished, Dan?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay. Well, I know you're not really finished, but for now. Greg and Ken.
I just wanted I've never done this, but I've heard about what they call it wheat paste activism. I think that's where you come up with nice looking posters and run around town and paste them up. So that's an action people don't talk about much, but I wonder if that's something that might be interesting to do during either of those 2 weeks.
Good idea.
A good idea. Ken?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that diffused nuclear weapons also has
Diffused nuclear war.
I mean, right, diffused nuclear war also has on its homepage a link to join us in a week of work. If you click on that, again, there's a spot where you can register your events or look for other people's events. So that's another useful tool.
Right. So both diffused nuclear war and peace in Ukraine both have that option, and that's where a lot of the action is going to be for those 2 weeks. So check them both out. diffusednuclearwar.org and peaceinukraine.org.
And those weeks are which dates again?
24th to the 30th is diffused nuclear war, and the 30th to the 8th is peace in Ukraine. And they're both talking about, among other things, they're both talking about the Ukraine war presenting a great danger of becoming a nuclear war. Alice?
Yeah, I want to ask Ken and Marcy. I know your bishop in Santa Fe is so great on, stopping the nuclear project. But I was reading that is Pope Francis coming here, or has he been sending statements to Santa Fe? There was some connection. Do you know about this?
Well, the Archbishop was building on the Pope's statement of saying that possession of nuclear weapons is immoral. And the first thing that the Archbishop did in that connection was a very local event where he put up a very nice sign right at one of the cathedrals in Santa Fe. And then he got much more seriously involved, as you know, and has started dialogues on the subject. He went to Hiroshima with the Archbishop of Seattle. They met with two archbishops in Japan and issued a statement. And he's, I know he's working on something new and big now, and I'm trying to think of what is the next step. But yes, he is very much committed to this and moving forward on it.
I think that, Ken, according to Jay Coughlin, I think that's it's supposed to happen in either late November or early December. And it's some kind of convening. And this time, rather than just preaching to the choir, they're going to actually ask for people from the NSA and agencies to come. And I don't know if they'll get them or not, but he said not just to preach to the choir, but to get the word out farther.
Speak to Satan.
To your question, Alice, about the Pope, he made that statement that the possession of nuclear weapons is immoral. He made that statement more than 2 years ago, maybe closer to 3 years.
We were all very excited. I thought he was talking about it again now, though.
And I asked the Archbishop that I saw him at an event, a panel discussion that took place in Santa Fe following the Oppenheimer screening at the Art Theater. And I spoke to the Archbishop and I asked him, I don't know my words, but I pretty much the effect of, do you have main line to the Pope? And he does not. And I said, can you get him to speak out again? Can you ask him to give Joe Biden a call, because Joe Biden's a Catholic? Can you ask him to be more vocal about nuclear weapons? And he said, I can write him a letter and he will read it. But whether he does anything, I don't communicate with him regularly. So there's not a link there. And I then asked the Archbishop, would you be vocal about speaking to our representative, Teresa Ledger Fernandez, who I meet with her staffer approximately once a month here in Santa Fe. And every time, I meet with them for the purpose of communicating through Progressive Democrats of America. We meet with legislators about various bills. But whatever the bill is that month that I go to see them about, I always also talk about NUKES and LANL, Los Alamos National Labs. And I always ask the staffer, Matt Miller, what does she say about this? How does she feel about spending billions on nukes and risking all of our lives with a radiological disaster, with a bomb factory sitting on an earthquake fault, yada, yada. I say that every month, and I ask, what does she say about it? And every month he says, I have never heard her speak about nuclear weapons. And I said, well, have you asked her? And he said, yes, I have asked her, and I've never gotten a reply. She's incredibly evasive. And so when I was talking with the Archbishop, I said, would you give Representative Ledger Fernandez a call and meet with her in person? You are the Archbishop over 95 dioceses in New Mexico, and your main diocese is in Santa Fe, and she's a member of the Santa Fe Diocese of Catholic Churches. And he said, well, I'll think about that. So that's as far as I've gotten on that.
Oh, good. We're thinking on the same lines.
Yeah.
I guess politics and religion doesn't mix that well, I guess.
Yeah.
But Francis has been fabulous. I mean, for the ban treaty, and he had all of us at the Vatican. He was like gangbusters to get that ban treaty passed.
but persistence has been known to pay off, Marcy. So I would say keep after them.
Don't worry, I do.
We can tell.
Harvey, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's been brought up many times before in other contexts, but when there are dates like this coming up, letters to the editor can be effective, I think, in just making people aware. I know a lot of people here in our community that I've talked to them about a letter to the editor that I had published after Oppenheimer, and they said, I always read the letters to the editor. So a lot of people do read them. And, these are just hooks that you can use to get a letter published, because people I've talked to at the newspaper say, we're always trying to get good letters, and they appreciate them.
Good idea. Lots of good ideas here. So we got 2 short items left on the agenda. I know you all want to get on with your Friday evening. This has been a great discussion. A lot of good energy, a lot of good ideas, and now we just have to follow through. So the other items are briefly, and I already mentioned it before, I'll just mention it again. There is a letter being circulated. It's actually by Peace in Ukraine. I think the original author was, the first draft at least, was Medea Benjamin. And the first signer of that letter was Daniel Ellsberg. So it's kind of been on hold for a few months. As you know, Daniel's left this plane, but his signature still powerfully leads this letter to Anthony Blinken. Basically, it's a letter that's designed for nuclear disarmament organizations, nuclear abolition groups to sign, calling on Blinken to support a ceasefire negotiations and not risk nuclear war in Ukraine. So I'll share that letter again on this listserv, and you can share it with other anti-nuke groups, and you can, of course, sign it yourself. And I think it's a good device, and I'm not sure exactly what its trajectory is, how long it'll, how many more signatures will be gathered, and when it'll be delivered. But it's another useful tool that we can utilize during these coming weeks of action. And then the final thing on anybody have a comment or question about that?
Can you put that in the link in the chat? Link in the chat.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'll look at that. Yes, I should be able to do that.
But you're going to email it too, right?
Yes. And then finally, Jim mentioned that we have regular guest speakers at our meetings. So typically what we've done for the last 2.5 years, for most months, we've met twice a month. We meet the 2nd and 4th Fridays at this time. And on one of those times a month, more recently, it's been the 4th Friday. We have a guest speaker. We've had a lot of great, very well-informed guest speakers on a variety of nuclear-related issues. So the question is, ideas for the next speaker 2 weeks from today, which will be the 22nd, right? 22nd of September. Yes. So, gosh, that's right at the beginning of these weeks of action. It'd be good to have, I don't know, any ideas about who would be a powerful, appropriate speaker for our next meeting. And we can reach out to a few people. Ken?
Well, Ellen Barfield has been pushing for quite some time to get Ray Atchison if he can fit into his schedule. I don't have personal contact with her. I could ask Ellen if she wants to try for the 22nd.
That would be good.
You know who else wrote a fabulous piece? Clay Benally with the Navajo. They now call themselves the Diné about what was left out of Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they were the uranium miners, and he was very articulate. I don't know. I mean, it might be interesting to hear from an indigenous person. You know, there's a lot of power there to organize.
Clay is terrific, and I think Helen knows Clay, doesn't she, Jerry?
Yes, they work together. They work together on the clean up the mines, and he's had some serious health problems lately. But
I didn't know.
We could reach out to him.
I had him at a meeting in New York. It was the anniversary of Fukushima, and we invited. That's where I met him.
Mm-hmm.
And he got up and he excoriated us for not having an indigenous person welcome us to the meeting, like a native to open the meeting and do the land blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I grew up in New York. I didn't even know we had them. And he's the one that told me that it was the Lenape.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked it up and I Googled, there was a Lenape Center in New York City. It's all because of Clay. And I got friendly with the Lenape guy. And now we always have a Lenape at every, the city council, the UN is there to say, welcome to Manhattan.
Yeah, Clea is a great activist. He's also an artist and a musician. Yes, we can reach out to him and to Ray Atchison. Is that her last name, Atchison?
Yes. And there was another one that wrote also from the Downwinders. I forgot her name, a woman. Fabulous piece after Oppenheimer.
That would be
Tina Cordova.
Right, Tina Cordova. She spoke to the VFB board meeting recently.
She did. All right. Well, then.
But those are three very good ideas. We can reach out to all of them, and if they're not available for the next time, they can be one of our future speakers.
I think
Jess Gasper from Marshall Islander with PSR.
Who from the Marshall Islands?
Yeah, Jess Gasper. He's with Physician for Social Responsibility. I introduced you to him when you were here for one of Hiroshima and Nagasaki Day.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That would be okay. Those are four good ideas. Let's reach out to all of them, and we can't have them all on the same day, but they probably won't all be available on the same day. We could potentially have more than one, though. Ken?
Tina Cordova actually would be very timely because she's very anxious to get people to contact their Congress critters right now when they're coming back into session, and the RECA Act is going to be coming up for a vote probably in the next month or so. And so she's putting on a major push to get people talk to their Congress critters. I've been working with her on it. And if she weren't available on that date, one of the other members of the Downwinder Coalition probably would be. So if you'd like to push that up, I'm pretty sure we can get either Tina or one of her close associates.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm just thinking at the same time. I'm sorry, Greg. I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
No, I'm
just thinking that the 22nd is the very beginning of those 2 weeks of action that are focusing on abolishing nuclear weapons and ending the war in Ukraine. So, as much the Downwinder issue is certainly important, but it seems to me that at that particular time, it might be a better focus to be directly on nuclear weapons and ending the war in Ukraine, and encouraging people to participate in all the activities of the following 2 weeks.
Fine. That's good.
But I don't know who that would be exactly. That's just a thought. But we definitely want to have Tina back. I think, did we have her once before, Ken? I believe we did.
I think we did.
Yeah. But we got somebody, Greg and Peter, are you taking notes of those? Now we have, I think, 4 or 5 really good suggestions for speakers.
Yeah, I've got to check on the spelling, but yeah.
And Greg, what do you got?
I just wanted to ask Harvey if, you guys interview a lot of really great experts and speakers, and I wonder if there's anybody amongst them you would think would be, appropriate for the occasion.
Well, as far as anti-nuclear or Ukraine, we've done a lot of shows with clips from people like John Mearsheimer, Andrew Basovich, people like that. Whether we could get someone of that level to be a guest, that would be great. We don't have personal connections that I know of.
Well, maybe Harvey and I can brainstorm and would reach out to
we'll
somebody.
we'll go back over our archive and see if we can find someone that would be good to focus on that for sure.
Yeah. And then you could even record the meeting, and then there's another radio broadcast.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've been known to do that.
You bet.
And then there's some of the leading activists for those 2 weeks, Norman Solomon and Medea Benjamin, come to mind. I mean, we could potentially have invite both of them on to talk about the importance of the activities of the following 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Do they typically respond?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great
I
idea.
know Medea does. I think Norman does.
That's a great idea.
Could you reach out to Medea, Alice?
Yeah, I talked to him.
Okay. That'd be awesome.
So you like?
I don't know if she can, but I'll ask her. It'll be the 22nd, right, from 6 to 7:30.
Correct.
Yeah.
The other one I thought of is Claire Daly, but her time zone issues might be a problem.
Yeah.
I can get Jeffrey Sachs if you want him back.
Wow. Well, we just had a powerful presentation.
You just had him. You had Claire also.
So let's get the
That's
organizers.
But Jeffrey used to be on my board when I ran the Economists Against the Arms Race. So we were friends. He's been fabulous.
Well, shall we reach out then to Medea and Norman and see if they'll come on together? And if they can't, we'll find somebody else to speak for, like Marcy Winograd, who's heading up the Peace in Ukraine Coalition, for example, doing great.
She's great. She would be good. Or Ann Wright. Ann Wright is active with it.
Yeah. And then we'll get some of these other speakers in the following months.
Yeah, I've written to Ellen Barfield asking if there's any chance we could get Ray Atchison on the 22nd. I think that's very much a long shot. But
she's not really in this coalition that's doing the march and everything. She's in another world in a way, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
She's great. I mean, she's great.
Yeah, and she's on ICANN, on the steering committee of ICANN. So, yeah, she'd be
great. Okay, well,
so should I wait till you talk to Ray? Ken, let me know, and then I'll talk to me. I don't want to ask Medea, and then we have another that we're asking 2 people for the same night.
Yeah, I think I'll probably hear back from Ellen today or tomorrow if she thinks there's.
Okay, so I'll wait.
Okay.
So I'll work with you, Alice, and Ken on the speaker outreach.
Fine.
We can stay coordinated on that.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Okay. It's about time for us to wrap this up. How about final thoughts or good words, or maybe something that that didn't get mentioned that you'd like to mention now?
I'm just going to repeat that I'll send you my depleted uranium Bronx project article after we hang up.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I'd like to see that.
And all subscribe to Peace and Planet News.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we got plenty of good work to do. Hollis, you got your hand up. What's up?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, we had a presentation one time from Los Alamos, and there was some Native American women who had a film, and they talked about how radioactivity is leaking into their reservation. And then I reached out to Jim about contacting these people for permission to use that video. And the video is so important because they ask us to ask the water. Ask the water, they said, about how to behave and how to proceed. And it was such a revolutionary insight into the wisdom of Native Americans that I would sure like to have access to that and distribute that if we have permission to do that. To ask the water. Ever since then, I've been talking to the water coming out of my sink. What should I do with this? I don't want to waste it. Plants, pets, compost. But it's a revolutionary idea to think about asking water how to proceed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about that, Jim?
Well, I asked permission to use that video, and this is almost a year ago, isn't it, Alice?
No, not quite.
Okay, but not quite. But it's been quite a while. They never did get back to me. So maybe we could follow up. I'll write you an email and we'll follow up and we'll see if we can get this done.
Yeah, Jim, if you.
Okay, well, I've got the link. I've got the link to it. I just haven't gone back to see it because I wanted to have permission. Yeah, and then they'd say that
maybe it's too old. Maybe we can just go with it.
Maybe you should ask the water.
What's that?
Maybe you should ask the water.
Ask the water.
Water might be agreeable.
It's just going to tell you to go downhill.
I think that was probably Kathy Sanchez.
Yeah. I'll write you an email, Hollis, and let's see. Maybe we would just go for it.
And Ken, did you say something?
Yeah, I was saying that I suspect that was Kathy Sanchez.
Yes, it was.
And I know Kathy pretty well. So why don't you send me what you want to do with it, and I'll contact Kathy and see if we can get her okay.
Well, I just want permission to distribute to my lists.
Very good. Thanks, Ken. Well,
yeah, Damasio?
I have one last thing to say, and that is that in March and April, the Uranium Film Festival is coming to Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Actually, it's going to come through the United States. And, keep that in mind because I'm the director of the Southwest Uranium Film Festival. And my job is to look for films and make sure that this thing goes off in Albuquerque and Santa Fe and a couple of other places around in the country. But, I'm going to be looking for films. And I heard somebody talk about a film just in this conversation. And keep that in mind. And I'm particularly looking for films made by veterans on veteran subjects. Thank you.
Good to know. Anthony.
Have you seen Making Waves about the Golden Rule? That film?
No, I haven't. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to be looking for.
Yeah.
Of course, there's other people involved in this that make decisions, but I'm one of them. So, I'll make sure that if we get some of these films, that I'll make sure they get screened.
Ken?
Yeah, one thing that I was thinking of for a future date here is anybody seen the film 815 Hiroshima?
I have not.
It's won a couple of film festival awards in 2020. In fact, it won a Nashville Film Festival award in 2020.
Who knew?
And it's about a Hiroshima survivor and his daughter, and it's produced it's done in English, with Japanese subtitles, you can find it on the web. It's in limited distribution, but I was thinking we could contact them and see if we could use it for one of our sessions here.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, all this mention of films, makes me think that maybe doing our own No Nukes Film Festival in the future, maybe online, is something we could consider. By the way, we have another anti-nuclear filmmaker sitting here right with us, done a couple films, right, Anthony?
Yeah. And you've seen the movie I just mentioned many times, right? Making Waves.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've got a number of films up there, and hopefully more on the way. But,
well, Anthony,
yeah.
I would appreciate it if you could give me some idea of these films, but we'll consider them in the screenings. We'll be screening in maybe 15 different sites across the United States. We're going to begin in Window Rock, go to Washington, D.C., and then finish up in Los Angeles. It's going to be in March and April.
Beautiful. Yeah. If we're not closing up quite yet, I would like to mention something. Maybe I could write this in an email to people, but I think the second meeting of states at the UN in November, that is something for us always to keep in the back of our minds as chapters.
That's where the Archbishop is going.
Yeah. Well, so
could you explain that? Could you explain briefly what that is? The second meeting of states.
Second meeting, yes. So when this is an international treaty, they meet every year. This is the first meeting happened in Vienna, and this is the second meeting
of the new
states
treaty,
that are party.
The treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Treaty on, and these are the states parties that have ratified the treaty. So, but our U.S. reps can attend as observers. So it'd be great for all of us, all our chapters, to contact our reps. And who was speaking before about her rep? Who is it? Marcy. Thank you, Marcy. Yeah, ask your rep to tune in because there's so much misinformation about this treaty, and to check it out. So November 27th is a great day for our U.S. reps to chime in and ask questions and listen to what this treaty is about, and a very important date for us to. And a number of us here in New York will be out at the UN, of course, supporting this treaty, as the Golden Rule has been its entire voyage.
And the ICANN campaign, where Ray is part of, Ray Atchison, they have everything. They're organizing, musicals and art shows and everything during the second meeting of states parties, because the treaty was signed in 2017, and they had the first meeting, and this is the second meeting, where all the nuclear weapon states boycotted. So,
yeah, it's
like 122 countries signed, like over 80 ratified, but not us, So, anyway,
so that's at the end of November.
November 27th is a Monday. That's the day where U.S. Observers can join. They have to have them get in touch with me or Alice, or we can steer them in the right direction.
But that's going to be a whole week, though, of the meeting?
Oh, yes. Whole week of the meetings, the 27th.
At the UN. And there's all kinds of NGO events around it and before it and at night and during the afternoon, and side events while the governments are meeting.
But the 27th is specific to our U.S. reps.
Right.
That's a specific day. And we know they're not working on that day, our U.S. reps. And Jerry, I hope, I just want to say this publicly, that I hope that we can have something to really celebrate the Golden Rule when it arrives in Chicago. This deeply is involved with all the work that we're talking about now and nuclear weapons. So I would really like to make the Chicago any way we can, this arrival there and your demasking and your departure, whatever's happening. This is, to me, a huge event, a huge teaching event. And so,
thank you. We are going to have a special event. This will be our final event on Sunday, the 17th, as it happens.
Oh, really?
But it's going to be in the evening. And and at 6 p.m. Central Time, Chicago time in the evening. And we're going to have a hybrid meeting so that people like who've been our big supporters, like you and Ann Wright and other people who've been captains and crew and organizers of the local events around all around the Great Loop for the last year, can zoom into the meeting and share some of their observations and energy. So that's we'll be putting that together, and then we're going to have a similar meeting when the boat gets out to back to Humboldt Bay on October 8th. We're going to have another similar celebration, so we'll let you all know about that and try to get you plugged in.
And the 17th is September 17th in Chicago?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that's not necessarily a conflict. I hope it's not a conflict. I mean, the march is going to be earlier in the day, right?
Yes.
Well, that's part of the whole thing. You know?
Yeah.
And
I
as a
wanna
matter of
token
fact,
up.
we'd like somebody who attends the New York March, and I don't know what's going on in Chicago, but to zoom into that meeting and give us a report of the climate crisis and militarism contingent. That would be really good.
Fantastic.
Anthony would be good at that.
Well, we're all of it. Yeah. Wow, Jerry. To me, the Golden Rule was the highlight of the year for anti-nuke teaching, and just thank you so much. I can't think of a better tool and example.
Right. Thanks.
So thank you. And October 8th back in Humboldt. That's something to think about too. Wow. Great.
Yeah, and the Golden Rule also has kind of its own unique network of organizers now all around the country, especially now around the Midwest and the South and the East. And we're going to be using our email list to promote all these events that we're talking about at the end of September and early October. So, well, okay, we just have a lot of great opportunities before us right now. It's the question of how are we going to really make the most of it. So try to make it a big priority for all of us to do everything we can to be as visible as possible over the next several weeks.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Great meeting.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very nice. Good night.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Good night. Bye.